humans. So boom. This episode was not the original one that was planned, but when I hit the block with the hot take, y'all got real about intimacy, and it became clear that we needed to talk more about this. The vibe of the conversation was too good to pass up, and let's be honest, this is something that many of us either have experienced, ignored, or avoided entirely. What does it mean when the sex starts to fade in a relationship? Is it a phase? Is it a red flag? A sign to work through it, or to walk away? Welcome to Vibes and Affirmations, where there's a thin line between crashing out and keeping it all together. I'm your host, G, your favorite voice of reason and sometimes chaos. And today, we're diving into the energy shifts that happen when physical intimacy starts to fizzle. Because when that spark dims, it's not just about sex, it's about connection, effort, honesty, and sometimes the slow death of the relationship and no one says anything. Let's get into it. Let's ground ourselves with today's affirmation. Are you ready? I deserve intimacy that is consistent, connected, and intentional. Yes, say it with me. I deserve intimacy that is consistent, connected, and intentional. Because intimacy shouldn't feel like a chore. It shouldn't be something you beg for or something that slowly disappears without any real conversation. You deserve closeness that feels mutual, not one-sided. You deserve effort, not excuses. Let's talk facts. Sex is communication. It's not just physical release. It's an emotional and energetic exchange. When a partner pulls away sexually, that withdrawal often means something deeper. If you haven't been touched, desired, or connected to in weeks or months, pause and ask yourself, what hasn't been said aloud? Oh, they fun. Not, but because more often than not, the lack of touch is just a surface symptom of something deeper going on that's being unspoken of. Dry spells happen. Life be life, and for real. Work stress, mental health, physical exhaustion, parenting duties, routine fatigue. All of those things impact libido. But here's the thing. A dry spell with awareness and communication is different than one quoted in silence. If months have passed and no one's brought it up, it's not just a pause in sex. It's a pause in intimacy, effort, emotional presence. That's not a dry spell. That's emotional avoidance. You can't fix intimacy with assumptions. Too often, we internalize the shift, thinking that maybe it's our fault, or maybe if we just wait, things will go back to normal. But the silence is not a strategy. Waiting around in confusion doesn't breed connection. It breeds insecurity, resentment, and disconnection. If something feels off, talk about it. Ask uncomfortable questions because clarity brings peace and assumptions only feeds anxiety. Here's the hard truth. Intimacy is a living thing. It needs attention. It needs communication. It needs effort. If the physical spark is fading, you don't have to jump ship, at least not right away. But you do need to speak up. If you're avoiding the conversation because it's uncomfortable, ask yourself, is the silence more comfortable than the truth? Because sometimes the relationship isn't over, but the way you're doing the relationship needs to end. And if you're the only one trying to bring back the connection to life, that's not a partnership. That's emotional CPR. Let me keep it a buck. I've been through something similar. There was a point where the sex between me and my former partner wasn't consistent. It wasn't that it was completely off the table, but the energy had shifted. We weren't clicking the same, and instead of forcing it, we mutually decided to take space and go our separate ways. And what happened? Life happened. We both did our thing, lived a little, explored, experienced new people, new energy. And that space, that time apart, it low-key reignited something. When we circled back and reconnected, the intimacy was wild. Not just physically, but emotionally too. The chemistry had matured. The comfort, it was deeper. The sex, ooh. It wasn't just about the act. It was about the exploration we had done both individually. Sometimes stepping back, getting perspective, and exploring, even if it's other connections, can bring a new level of fire when you come back together. Because desire is tied to freedom, newness, and clarity. And sometimes a little distance lets you see what you really want. No, but for real, I know some of y'all are sitting out there in real time wondering, okay, But what do we actually do? Here's the truth. You know what, Jack? I'm not a therapist, but this is my opinion. When intimacy fades, you have two choices. You either address it with honesty or avoid it in silence. If you're in it and you want to work it out, start with curiosity, not blame. Ask your partner, how have they been feeling? Don't make it just about sex. I know it's kind of hard when you're a little deprived, but for real, chill. Ask what's been on their mind. How have they been processing life lately? Intimacy fades because connection fades. Schedule space for intimacy. And I'm not just talking sex, y'all. I'm talking about talk, date, flirt, touch. Go fuck outside or something. Be intentional. Desire doesn't just happen. Sometimes you have to create room for it. Try something new, new environments, new experiences, even new type of conversations that can reignite the chemistry. You'll be surprised how much unexplored energy still lives between you. Seek help if needed. Therapy, whether solo or for couples, can give you the ultimate tools to name what's hard to say and rebuild what's gotten distant. But if you've done all that and the energy is still one-sided, then it's time to ask the harder question. Am I in love with the relationship we actually have or the hope of what it might become? Because sometimes you're doing all the work for two. And that's not a relationship, that's a sacrifice long term. You deserve to feel wanted, connected, emotionally safe. Not like you're constantly chasing the intimacy you once had. If the other person won't meet you halfway, you have the right to explore what feeling fully desired really looks like with them or without them. So whether you stay, step back, or let go, make sure it's a decision rooted in clarity, not fear. Let's get into the real questions you should be asking yourself. When the intimacy started fading, did you actually talk about it? Or you just assumed? Did you give your partner a chance to explain what they were going through? Or did you fill it in with silence, with your own fear, anxiety, and assumptions? Because communication is hard, but silence, it breeds resentment. Have you ever left someone and realized that it wasn't even about the sex at all? Looking back, was it really the lack of sex that bothered you? Or was it the lack of attention, consistency, and emotional safety or effort? Because sometimes we use sex as a scapegoat when the root of the issue was emotional neglect. What does true intimacy mean to you? Is it a physical touch, deep conversation, feeling emotionally seen? Can your partner reach you in ways that actually matter? You'll be surprised how many people crave emotional intimacy that are settling for physical proximity. Take a second and think about it. Journal on it or bring this conversation up with someone who's close to you. Don't let intimacy be the elephant in the room. So let's land this. The spark fading doesn't mean the love is gone. It just means the effort disappeared. Or maybe the version of the relationship you built needs to evolve. If the sex has slowed down, the solution isn't always to leave. It's to ask questions, have honest conversations, and be clear about your needs. But if you're the only one initiating the change, initiating connection, and trying to get things back on track, then you are doing emotional labor that should be mutual. You deserve passion, presence, and consistency. And if that means speaking up or stepping away, then so be it. So if this episode brought anything up for you, sit with it, reflect, have the conversation. Because avoiding is not protecting your relationship. It is letting it fade. Until next time, humans, stay solid, speak the fuck up, and keep vibing.